We're launching a new feature on the Journal this week. We call it our clip file, stories we collect that may have fallen through the cracks or disappeared under the avalanche of information that falls on all of us every day. We begin with the war in Iraq.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
The Bush White House has launched a massive new PR campaign with the message, "The surge in Iraq is working. Let's stay the course." The president called on the ghost of Vietnam to help him win support for a prolonged occupation.
One unmistakable legacy of Vietnam is that the price of America's withdrawal was paid by millions of innocent citizens whose agonies would add to our vocabulary new terms like boat people, re-education camps, and killing fields.
History is already repeating itself in Washington. Remember Ari Fleischer?
Well, there is no question that we have evidence and information that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, biological and chemical particularly. This was the reason that the president felt so strongly that we needed to take military action to disarm Saddam Hussein.
That was White House Press Secretary Fleischer making the case for invading Iraq in March of 2003. Now he's in private life and running a $15 million ad campaign to shore up support for the president's war policies. The ads use wounded war veterans and next of kin of soldiers killed in Iraq to make the case. It's a campaign funded by former Bush officials and big donors.
Jesse died the week before the Iraqi election, and he sacrificed for our freedom and for their freedom. For Congress to switch votes for political reasons while we're making progress in Iraq, to me, is unthinkable.
So the president seems as determined as ever to stay in Iraq.
Unlike in Vietnam, if we were to withdraw before the job was done, this enemy would follow us home.
The military now has to come up with the troops to carry on. The president's new war czar, Lieutenant General Douglas Lute, in a candid moment on National Public Radio, entertained the thought of a draft.
I think it makes sense to certainly consider it, and I can tell you it has always been an option on the table, but ultimately this is a policy matter between meeting the demands for the nation's security by one means or another.
The White House quickly knocked that option down, and the military continues to make its appeal on radio and television.
It's more than physical strength. It is emotional strength. There is nothing on this green earth stronger than the U.S. Army, because there is nothing on this green earth stronger than a U.S. Army soldier.
On the ground in Iraq, their strength is being tested. The Observer of London finds the American Army there crippled by fatigue. The Observer's reporter says frustration and weariness are common among the troops he met, brought on by battle stress, sleep disorders, multiple tasks, and extended tours of duties. A chaplain's assistant who came to bless a patrol snapped at the journalist, "Why don't you tell the truth? Why don't you journalists write that this army is exhausted?" And from a major at a military hospital in Mosul, the Observer heard of morale affected by a deep-seated problem of retention and recruitment.
Staff Sergeant Nunes, United States Army. How you guys doing?
This spring, the Army had a hard time wooing new recruits. Recruiting goals were down by 7% in May, the first shortfall in 2 years. In June, the shortfall was even greater, 15%.
Tonight, a disappearing military mainstay. For a number of years, about a quarter of all new military recruits have been African American.
NBC, the Associated Press, and other news outlets are reporting that the number of black recruits joining for military duty has plunged dramatically, dropping by more than a third. The Pentagon's been stepping up efforts to recruit Latinos. There's even a proposal in Congress to grant citizenship to illegal immigrants in exchange for military service. Its sponsors call it the DREAM Act. That's DREAM for the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act. If Congress approves, young immigrants can buy their citizenship with 2 years of military service. Already a citizen? The Army offers a different incentive altogether. It's called a quick shipper bonus, sort of a summer special. Sign up before the end of September, and the new recruit can qualify for a bonus of $20,000 if he's willing to ship out within 30 days. And there's always that chance to win an iPod. There is some small print. It says soldiers can't collect a cent of that bonus until they've completed advanced training and reached their first permanent duty station, at which point they will get half the check, $10,000. The rest of the bonus will be paid out in annual installments over the lifetime of the soldier's contract. It looks like this bonus boosted recruits in July.
Good luck, sir.
The Army reports that it met its recruiting goal for the month. But the recruiting gets harder the longer the occupation continues. In Iraq, the reality is very different from the official rhetoric. The New York Times this week published a remarkable essay written by 7 soldiers fighting the war. They're with the 82nd Airborne, braving enemy fire there and risking censure at home by describing what's really going on. They write, "We are skeptical of recent press coverage portraying the conflict as increasingly manageable and feel it has neglected the mounting civil, political, and social unrest we see every day. They are caught," they write, "between determined enemies and questionable allies." Example, a lethal armor-piercing explosive was detonated between an Iraqi Army checkpoint and a police one. Local Iraqis readily testified to American investigators that Iraqi police and Army officers escorted the triggermen and helped plant the bomb. They write, "To believe that Americans, with an occupying force that long ago outlived its reluctant welcome, can win over a recalcitrant local population and win this counterinsurgency is far-fetched." The men conclude, "As committed soldiers, we will see this mission through." In the course of writing their essay, one of the soldiers, Staff Sergeant Jeremy Murphy, was shot in the head and medevaced to the United States. And remember that Spanish language ad? It featured Army Specialist Astor Sunson Pineda and his family. Sunson Pineda immigrated to the U.S. at the age of 8 from Honduras. Last May, he was killed by a roadside bomb in Baghdad. He was 20 years old. The Army pulled the ad. Once again, we are learning that an endless war has a bottomless appetite. That's it for the Journal. We'll be back next week. Meantime, keep in touch on the blog at pbs.org. I'm Bill Moyers.